everybody. Welcome to Unpack Your Life. And I'm your host, Jane Bond, identity strategist and founder of Diamond Key Coaching. This is the show where we go past the surface, past the performance, and into the real work. Because most people don't have a motivation problem. They have an identity problem. And today's conversation is a masterclass in exactly that. With that being said, I'd like to introduce you to my guest today, Gia Lacquafor, former Fortune 100 Vice President, founder of Elevate, and award-winning author of PowerShift. From balancing it all to the strategic pursuit of what matters most. She is a trauma-informed certified coach and researcher. And she works with high-performing women who have hit a wall, not because they lost their drive, but because the playbook that built their success has become the exact thing driving their burnout. Her diagnosis is precise, that it is not a mindset problem, it is a strategy problem. Gia and I have been in each other's world, and which means today we get to skip the small talk and actually do this. Gia, welcome to Unpack Your Life.
Jane, thank you so much for that warm introduction and for having me today. It's an honor to be here with you and your audience.
Thank you for being here, Gia. I am so excited about this show because Gia and I are in the same lane, basically. And her questions really stopped me for a minute. So, Gia, I sent you some questions, ahead of this show, and your answers have been sitting with me, since I read them. You said you became the fixer, the one who anticipated everyone else's need, ignored her own for years, and then you said she retired. But she sneaks back in. Tell me about the last time she snuck back in.
Oh, well, that's a good question. So I believe that the strategies that make women successful are the same strategies that can make us vulnerable to burnout, to manipulation, to toxic workplaces and relationships. And I believe there's 5 archetypes that equate to our strategies. One of them is the fixer. I identify, to be honest, with all of them. The fixer is my predominant one. The others are Peacekeeper, the Chameleon, the Ghost, and the Fixer. And so, or the Prover, sorry. And so, I think the important thing to notice is we adapt these strategies in life, and it starts at a very young age, and they make us successful. And then one day we don't realize that they have a downside, they have a dark side, and they can end up hurting us when they're overused, because any strength, when it's overused, can become a weakness or vulnerability. So for me, my predominant archetype or strategy is the fixer, meaning I was the one who is solving everyone else's problems. I was the one who would step in and manage, your situation before you even had a chance, before you even knew it was a problem. And so that became part of my identity. And I love the work that you do because it is so connected to the work that I do. And, the fixer became my identity. It was who I was. And it also made me successful. So for me to disconnect from that felt scary, right? Because it's what I knew. It's what drove my quote unquote success. And so I think your question is around when was the last time that creeped up for me? So I did try to separate myself from the strategy and realize it's not who I am. It's a strategy that had worked for me until it didn't. And so I did sideline her, but she does creep in all the time. And I notice it now probably more so with my daughters. I am a very proud girl mom. And so, they are 9 and 11 and now becoming more independent. And, for me, it's really important to teach them how to be strong and capable and independent without overusing those strengths. But for me, it creeps in a lot when I see them struggling or having a hard time and, stepping in to help soften, those hard moments or save them in those moments where they're struggling. And so for me, it's really not about stopping and not helping them. It's just about taking a step back and realizing, where does my role end and where does their role begin?
Wow. That is great, especially with your daughters. I understand that. I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews. And trust me, I step in a lot with them.
Yeah.
What do did you feel the moment before you caught it? Not after the awareness, right before, what was the pull?
Yeah, I felt myself, there's almost like a physical response to stepping in, like swooping in. You can almost visualize your body. It's almost something that happens physiologically where, as babies, you want to coddle them and cradle them. But now that they're older, it's more like, when they start getting homework and you're like, okay, well, let me help you with your homework. But are you actually helping them to learn, or are you just helping them to get the homework done? And so it's almost physiological in my body. Like I notice I have that swooping in sort of sensation. And so to your point, just before that awareness is this response in my body where I'm like, okay, I'm doing it.
That's that mother thing.
Yeah.
Run it, take care of it, make sure they're okay. And I get that. I totally get that. You wrote something that stopped me also. If no one is watching, I would allow myself to be slower, quieter. But what really got me was less useful. Say more about that.
Yeah. So that's the prover in me. The prover is the one who is always going, doing, proving their capability, right? Because as girls, oftentimes we have learned that being useful equates to love and safety and other people's comfort. And so, yeah, doing more and being more productive and more helpful and more useful. And listen, we feel good when we do things for other people, especially as women, 100%. But the problem is we don't know where the line between service and sacrifice is. And it all becomes very blurred together. And for me, that was one of the biggest learning lessons, is how to take a step back and say, am I doing this from a place of service, or am I doing it from a place of sacrifice? Meaning I have to, the guilt. And so for me, the prover is really the one who is constantly out there to prove everything I'm capable of to anyone watching. And that's a trap I fell into, and a lot of highly achieving women do. So for me, being able to rest and be lazy, it's almost like now when I can prove to myself that, oh, I can be on the couch, right? And like be lazy as I can be, and I'm still valuable. I'm still, useful, productive.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's the rest part that we need.
exactly.
And like you said, you had to learn that. Where did you first learn useful and worthy were not the same thing? Were the same thing, I'm sorry.
Oh, that they were the same thing.
That they were the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think inadvertently it happens as girls for most of us. I think, we grow up and we're praised for being useful, helpful, keeping the peace, being quote unquote easy, mature for our age. And so we take great pride in that because we say, oh, they're proud of me, whether it's a parent, a teacher, a coach. I think it's really I don't think it was one moment. I think it's micro moments when we are praised for those qualities, traits, behaviors, and we say, oh, well, this is going to get me somewhere. This is going to give me something that I need. And then we start equating that usefulness to our worthiness.
100%. And those are all inherited traits by women that have handed them down to us for centuries. And we believe that by pleasing someone and putting our needs second, we become, worthy.
Yeah.
And we do it all the time. All the time. Yeah. And we live a life of servitude in our own way, also doing this work. So we can't forget that. And when, like you said, when I'm laying on the couch, I still feel valued. And that means something because we need rest to do the things that we do.
100%. And the biggest shift for me, Jane, was realizing that, it's hard when rest feels uncomfortable and stillness feels uncomfortable. Absolutely. The biggest shift for me, again, I'll bring it back to my girls, is, the biggest mindset hack for me was realizing, what am I teaching them? What model am I setting for them? And when I think about when they grow up as adults, do I want them to feel that rest is lazy? No.
Absolutely.
Right. And so, but
Yeah.
they're not going to do what I say. They're going to do what I do. And so modeling that was a really big intentional shift for me.
I definitely appreciate that because, like you said, they do what you do. They're not going to do exactly what you say. They're going to see you. And resting is very important to all things because it will lead to burnout.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. That's what you're writing about. It's not a mindset shift. It is strategy and understanding that we have to take time for ourselves and take time for our family. Helps us move along each day of our lives.
Absolutely.
So what belief about being responsible is quietly costing you your life? Because you said something about that. You said it's control, strategy. When did you first see it for what it was?
Yeah, this is one that is definitely near and dear to my heart. I think that being responsible, we have equated that to absorbing. And we somehow think that absorbing is a love language. We think that other people's discomfort, their problems, their gaps, their emotions are ours to take on. And again, sometimes you want to be helpful for someone you love. And again, that's where the service comes in. But I think we overstep and it comes from a good place. It comes from a place of wanting to help others, but oftentimes it is about control. And we're taught that that's care when we take on other people's stuff, I'll say, for a lack of a better term.
Right. Because we become the people pleasers.
Yeah.
And we feel as though if they're comfortable,
yes,
we're worthy of their praise. But then we devalue ourselves.
Correct.
In that manner by not taking on what makes us happy and what makes us comfortable because we're always out there pleasing.
Yeah.
The pleaser is the worst for me. So I recognize that immediately. That pleaser, what you're describing to me and what you have described to me in these answers that you have given me, you're unpacking and you're definitely revealing. And that's more important than anything right now when we're having this conversation. That's why, to me, this is a masterclass for people.
Mm-hmm.
And when I asked you, what did it cost you? That's your equity. And we have to reclaim that because we will give it all away. So I totally get what you're saying and appreciate all of this. And I'm happy you're sharing this because a lot of this people would feel very personal and you're being vulnerable at this point. And I think handling that responsibility at this point is your strategy.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And helping other women to see it for what it is.
We have to because, we're born, as women, we're here to serve most of the time. This is our role throughout life. And people, take that for granted a lot. Your answer about success was one of your most confident things you wrote. You said all of it belongs to you. And trust me, I believe that. You said that with so much conviction. I felt that through the computer.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I definitely felt that because I understand that we are always being apologetic for our success. We'll brush it off. Oh, wow, you did so well. You just keep moving, but we should own that. And I love that you said all of it belongs to you. You just learn to define it on your own terms. I know when that shift happened. Tell me a little bit about that. I want to know when that shift happened for you. Not the insight, the moment you actually stopped performing success for someone else. Definition of it. Mm-hmm. Because I know when it happened for me. And I just kind of want to, see where that fell for you. Because, like I said, we're always apologetic about our success. We never want to own it. And I think as women, we should own it more often. So when you stood in your conviction, I was like, oof, I can't wait to talk to you.
Yeah, it's a great question. The thing is for me, I think a lot of us were handed a definition of success and we follow that script. We follow that blueprint and we check the boxes of life and we say, okay, job, check. house, check, car, check, family, right? Until we get all the things we think we're supposed to have in order to make us quote unquote successful. And then we arrive, quote unquote, to this destination and we realize, wait a minute, I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not the best version of me that I know I can be. I'm not tapped into my true potential. And so it leaves us wondering, like, where did we go wrong? And that's where I think women need to step back. And even as girls, we need to start teaching them that definition of success should be as unique as your fingerprint, right? It should belong to you. It should be what is meaningful to you. And it will evolve in different stages of your life. What success looks like at 25 is not going to be what it looks like at 45.
And you're not the same at 25.
You are not, exactly. You are not the same. And so it's really about evolving your definitions of success as you evolve as a person. So for me, I think it was, really a wake-up call. I was still in my corporate career and I, burnout is such an understatement for what I had experienced. I was having heart palpitations as a result.
Conversation. Yes, I know.
Yeah, as a result of unmanaged stress, not taking care of myself, putting everyone else first, really not listening to myself. I was very disembodied from myself and, realized that I also had a lot of unhealed trauma that was driving my behaviors and my tendencies. And I had intellectualized them to say, to tell myself I had dealt with them, but underneath it, I had never really processed them. So there was a lot of emotions that I had suppressed that I had never really dealt with. And so that was a real wake-up call for me when I realized, okay, this is now impacting my health and my ability to be who I, know I can be physically, mentally, emotionally. Yeah. And so it took me, I had to really step back from that moment and take a few months to myself to really, I would say reclaim my life, reclaim my definition of success and reclaim myself and figure out like what was working and what wasn't. And there was a lot that wasn't working, but I had just been pushing through because that's what women are taught to do. And so really it's exhausting. That was my wake up call.
Do you think that people should go after success in the reverse? Like become who you are? Because I know I got lost. Yeah. I looked in the mirror and I shared this with you when you interviewed me and I was like, well, who are you? Yeah. Where are you?
Yeah.
I want to meet the person I knew years ago that was genuine, that was authentic. I didn't feel like I had autonomy anymore. I didn't feel like I had control over my interior empires, which we talk, like I said, we talk about mind shift all the time, but we forget about everything that makes us human. And I think if we probably would go looking for success or going after success in the reverse, finding out who we are, what we're made of, and feel that authenticity, I think we would probably have a better world, a better society. Yeah. I'm reading this book called Give and Take by Adam Grant, and he talks about how we have givers, takers, and matchers. And he talks about how the givers are the most successful people. But in the beginning, when he starts explaining things, it sounds like he's saying the takers do. And most in the corporate world, I think we have to put on these masks of being takers so we don't look soft. So especially women, because the moment we soften in the corporate world, we look weak, especially when we're in the man's, world within that corporation. Because we could be, I don't know too many corporations where we're all in the women's world. That doesn't exist. But when we're there, we have to be strong. We have to not look like we're going to break. And, they'll look at us like, oh, she's about to cry any minute because we wear emotions on our face and in our bodies. But I just think that, when we stand in our convictions and we stand in our power and keep our autonomy, success should look different to us. We would go after success differently.
Yeah.
And I just wanted your take on that.
I love that. I think it's so beautifully stated. And I agree with you 100%. I think nobody teaches us to find yourself first before you define what success looks like. And so for a lot of us, it comes later in life. But I agree with you. The armor that once protected you becomes the cage that traps you in the next.
It definitely does. It
Right. And
definitely.
so, but yeah, you're right. Especially as women, especially in the working world, we do develop this armor, these masks, these strategies that help us to get to where we think we want to be quote unquote more
Until
like a man. Yeah, until we don't, until we realize, wait, this isn't actually who I am and what I value. And I think one of the biggest lessons for me in the corporate world is once I had somebody who worked for me, or somebody that I worked with for a very long time, said to me, once I got my coaching certification, she said, you were really meant for this. And I said, wow, I appreciate that. She said, because you're a nurturer at your heart, at heart. Like that's just who you are. And so this work is so much more aligned because in my vice president in the role in the corporate world, I felt like I couldn't be a nurturer. I felt like I had to hide and suppress that part of me. But over the years, I realized that's the part of me that actually connected with people and was able to help people the most. And what they actually appreciated about me, probably the most, is when I let glimpses of that come through. And so it is important to recognize like, what are your superpowers? What are your strengths? And not to downplay them.
that's what I said when I talked about success and the whole thing with Adam Grant, what he was saying
Yeah.
about the givers, because it's just so real.
Yeah.
And at that point, we reclaim our power, because that's what I hear you describing. You have to reclaim your power when it comes to that, because the masks that we wear, they will fade away after a while because you just can't keep that structure forever.
It's stressful. It's exhausting.
My God, I tell you, I know me. I got really sick, just like you said. I got so physically sick. And it's been 2 years, which really is interesting to me. And I'm still moving through unpacking my life. People ask me, wow, you seem like you're doing so much better, Jane. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm still moving through this. It's never going to be over because I'm still building. And you have to keep building to soften the blows that took you down.
Yes.
And as long as you build and become comfortable with who you are at the end of it all, it all makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a destination, it's a process.
Oh, definitely. And it's a marathon at that. So the power shift. Walk me through the moment that title became obvious. Not the book proposal, the lived experience that made you know that that word was right.
Oh, such a great question. So this was actually a very powerful moment for me because I was struggling with titles for the book. And for me, it was this wake up call and the realization that, this generation of women, what I call the do it all generation of women, we, with very good intention, were sold this idea that we can do anything. You can do anything. And somewhere along the lines that morphed into you have to do everything. And so now we have a generation of women, yeah, who are successful on the outside, but quietly exhausted, over functioning, and unhappy on the inside. And I'm not going to soften that anymore. I used to soften the message to make people feel comfortable. And I think that's part of what my next chapter of what I'm evolving into, because I'm saying the hard thing that a lot of people don't want to say out loud. And, so that really, we were told just you have to find better balance. And that word I always struggled with as a working mom. And so for me, it was really about calling out the conditioning that women were handed.
And the ghost.
Yes.
That ride our backs.
100%.
Always make sure we do that.
100%. And really like calling that out and saying, no, this is not who you are. What happens is, the strategy that we are handed becomes fused with our identity. And we mistake it for who we are. We say, oh, this is just how I am. This is just who I am. And so the goal of Power Shift is really to help women shift out of seeing the strategy as part of their identity and being intentional about who they're becoming and who they are and who they want to be down the road. Right. And really shifting out of what was handed to them and shifting into, as we just talked about, their own definition of success. And the reason I say my success, I own all of my success, as I'm sure the same is true for you and so many other women. Nobody handed me Nobody handed me success, quote unquote, the definition of success. They handed me a definition, but nobody handed me the career. Nobody handed me the house. Nobody handed me the car, right? We blood, sweat, and tears. We poured ourselves into building what we thought was the definition of success, and then realized, oh wait, maybe this isn't actually everything that I wanted, or this isn't actually what I am aspiring to. And so I think it's important, own your success and own your accomplishments, but it's also okay to say, like, I want different. I want something different. I want better. I want, something that I
Absolutely.
don't have.
Well, listen, our lives aren't linear. You
Right.
know, we can be three-dimensional anytime we want and become whomever we want at any given time without social judgment. That's a whole nother thing. And when I think about success in reverse these days. And like I said, identity, when you foreclose on an identity that was never yours to carry, the trauma, the mask, everything comes into play
Mm.
because it will catch up to you. And you must know that that identity equity that you have put so much into, you invested so much, it's going to be cashed in.
Yeah.
Because it will destroy you in the end. And that's what happens. That's why you got sick. That's why I got sick. And so many women go through burnout because they can't handle it. And this is the part I want to ask you about also. What did you have to unlearn about success before you could write honestly about it?
So much. I think unlearning is the best word for it, because as women, a lot of times the strategies that people are telling us now we need is more. We need more confidence, more this, more that. And really, I think the most powerful thing is the unlearning. So for me, the unlearning was, that it was about title, it was about money, it was about pushing through.
Yeah.
Very, very stereotypical overfunctioner. And, I prided myself on that, only to then realize, oh, wait, like this isn't something I should be proud of.
Yeah.
So that's I think the learning, the unlearning, I think is, realizing what I thought I had to be and what I should be was somebody else's definition that was handed to me through, society, through media, through,
All the
well-intending family and friends and all of it.
all the noise. Do you think you foreclosed on your identity at that point?
Yeah, I love how you use that word. So I think I was very intentional about deciding who I no longer wanted to be
Fantastic.
and what parts of me I wanted to keep. And so I think I retired certain parts of my identity. I think I said, okay, these parts of me are no longer serving. They're no longer serving the person I am. They worked for me at one point, and that's hard, again, to separate yourself. But I think I was able to acknowledge, hey, this worked for me and it got me here, but it is no longer serving me. And so I was able to retire those strategies and then say, okay, now what do I want to keep? And who do I want to be in the future? And so I think it was more of like an audit, like an identity audit.
Absolutely. I love that because you have to do an identity audit to even get there. And
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you describe is you totally are reconstructing yourself. I don't know if you're there already, but it takes time to do that. Like we just said, it's definitely a
Always a
marathon.
work in progress.
And that reconstruction is so important because, what I'm hearing you describe right now is you had to unravel that large tapestry, break down that foreclosure and then be rebirthed, And that's the darkest part, to come to realization. You have to go through the darkest of dark. You have to leave all the parts that don't fit anymore and break everything down and only carry the parts that fit you to rebuild. And I think that's a beautiful thing because that reconstruction, that is nobody's business.
Yeah.
Okay? That is nobody's business. Someone said to me, ain't nobody's business if I do. So with that being said, I take my hat off to you because all the things that you have described is the identity rebuild from that.
Mm-hmm.
You went through the audit, the equity, the foreclosure, the construction. And that's a full plate for someone to carry. And like I said, trust me, I applaud you, Gia, so much because it's a lot. And it takes courage to come through that. And I'm still coming through it after 2 years. So I totally understand that. And hearing what you're saying, you're reclaiming, you're reinventing, all of that. You're changing that whole DNA of your identity. And that's a beautiful thing. Because a lot of people don't realize that they don't have a motivation problem. They have an identity problem. And that's what they have to unpack. And that's what this podcast is about, unpacking your life. And we have to do it frequently. And I always say I burnt the house down because I had to. I had the trauma. I had the inherited traits. I had the whole success thing. It was driving me crazy. And it was really taking me down the dark road. So I knew I had to pretty much break all of that down, unravel that large tapestry that I wove together throughout my entire life, thinking I had to be this and wanting more and more. And the more I got, the more I wanted. The more I was building, the higher I wanted to go. And I thought to myself, this feels very icky, Jay. Yeah. Where's your heart? Where's the human part of you? You've been performing for years. This is not good. How do you get back to being you and retrace your steps? That's the identity audit. Break it all down. Retrace those steps. Find
we
out
lose
where
ourselves.
Yeah. The why, the when, the how. Mm-hmm. And understand how to get back to that. Find that journey. It's funny, I did a post, and the reason I did this post last week is because I was with my little 4-year-old great nephew, and we watched The Wizard of Oz. And this light bulb came on my head. I went, oh my God, this is identity. This is my identity method. The audit, the equity, and the journey. And when I looked at the whole trip down the Albert Road, I said to myself, that's the curriculum. That's where we learn. The lion, the courage, the 10 men, the heart. But they were performing this all along. Yeah. And they didn't realize it because they didn't have the courage. They didn't have all the traits that they thought that they didn't inherit, which was the humanness. Mm-hmm. And Dorothy, all she wanted to do was go home.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. I came back home.
And I love that.
Home as being where it all started. And how do I regroup and start from
within?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Start from within and then work my way out, being who I am.
Yeah.
And looking at my little nephew, seeing how everything fascinated him. He was oohing and ahhing about everything. And I went, wow, that is the beginning of identity. Yeah. So I get that with your daughters. This is the beginning of them finding out who they are. And they have the perfect mother to take them through it. Oh. So that's a beautiful thing. I only wish I had some daughters. And that's why I'm so close to my family. And that's what was missing. I had to come back home. So when I watched The Wizard of Oz, I went, wow, this is a great post. I need to post this. People think I'm crazy, but.
No, that's such a beautiful analogy and so well stated.
The allegory is just amazing. And
I love that.
Yeah. So when you talk about your daughters and nurturing them and making sure, which we are natural nurturers, that's what we do. We raise everyone. Without us, there is no one. Yes. There is no man, there's no nephews, there's no daughters. Without us, we are that.
So true.
So that brings me to my next question. Wow, that was long. We went around the world on that. The reconstruction of you, you said your vulnerability is what you abandoned. Tell me about that to become acceptable. You are reclaiming it in a big and small way every day. Give me a small way. Because the one that nobody sees, that's what I want to know.
Great question. So I think a lot of us as women, we abandon vulnerability because we think it's going to hurt us. So in the workplace, like you said earlier, it's about being stoic. I was always the stoic one. It could be about, not showing emotion or, not being too nice. So we kind of abandon the things that may become natural to us. We abandon who we are at our core because we're afraid of how other people will perceive it. And so, as we know, vulnerability is a strength in life and in leadership. And when you are so comfortable with who you are that you're able to show your vulnerable side, it makes such an impact on the people around you, around your family, around your team, around even the leaders above you. It sets a
Absolutely.
tone and an example for a culture. And again, this applies at home and in the workplace, that it's okay to express my feelings. It's okay to be who I am. It's okay to say what I actually think, and not be afraid that somebody's going to hate you or stop talking to you. Right. And so I think for me, I mean, listen, there's things in my career, whether it's coming on this podcast and telling my story, right? That's vulnerable, or speaking in front of a crowd or an audience. That's very vulnerable, because I never imagined myself standing on stages sharing my story. But even in the little moments, it's about saying to someone, like when they say, "How are you?" And it's about saying, "You know what? Not having a great day.
Today, so.
Today, I'm not feeling
Yeah.
it today, but thank you for asking," right? Just being okay and sitting with the emotion that's coming up.
Do you think a lot of women are, I can't think of her name, the character, in Devils Wear Prada? Do you think a lot of women act that way when they're
Yeah.
on stage or in the office?
Yeah.
Because definitely that is not vulnerability shown at any time.
For
Because I
sure.
think vulnerability, it helps us engage with one another.
Yes.
It shows that we're open and definitely diverse. We have to allow that in, because that's where the creativity happens.
Absolutely.
And when we're not vulnerable, we shut down and shut out a lot of people. And also, we have to be careful when we show our compassion and who we share that with.
Yeah.
We have to have courage to do that, because then you have the people that become the fixer. Okay? When you share your compassion, or become the comparer. They need to compare themselves to
Yes.
what you're sharing with them. And I always think, you have to be careful. You definitely have to be careful with who you're going to be vulnerable with.
Yes.
Most times. But in the long run, I think vulnerability keeps us open. It keeps us learning and unlearning also.
Mm-hmm.
And because if we don't share that vulnerability, we lose a lot. We don't engage with certain people.
Yeah.
We don't show people who we really are. And we miss things.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're climbing the success ladder. If you take on that persona, you're going to miss a lot.
Yeah.
And I think staying open is very important to who we are. That should be
And
a
that
skill
connection.
set.
Absolutely.
That
That
should be a skill
connection
set.
to others, the
Not a
humanity.
mindset. Absolutely. Because, being intellectual is a part of, you have to have intellectual humility, no matter what. And not having that, like I said, you miss a lot in life.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves benevolence. Everyone. I don't care who they are. Anything that's breathing and walking around on this planet. We're all here together.
Sure.
So we have to unmask ourselves most times. Because if we don't, trust me, life is going to just slide you by.
100%.
Especially if you're a taker.
Oh, yeah.
That you have to be a giver, because giving is, pretty much success. So the things that I've heard you describe, I think are amazing, and at this point, you're at your expansion. That's what it sounds like to me. You said the version of you that is waiting is the one who builds without softening the mission for others' comfort. What has she been waiting for, Gina?
Permission. I think permission, right? We often are waiting for someone else to give us permission to do or be something. And that permission has to come from within.
That's a good answer. Great answer. What does she build?
Yeah, I think, that's still a work in progress. I think she's building support, resources, tools to help women to overcome these strategies that are holding them back, to help women step into the best version of themselves that they know they can be. I think a lot of us realize we have untapped potential, but we feel like we're stuck. We feel like this is the life I chose, or it's too late. We tell ourselves it's too late to make a career change, or it's too late, or this is not the right time to get a divorce. Whatever it is, we give ourselves the excuses for why we can't. And I get it, because a lot of them are valid, right? When it comes down to, yes, we have a mortgage to pay. Yes, we have kids to take care of. We have to put food on the table. Those are all very real. And I do not want to dismiss them for 1 second. But we also neglect the fact that, yeah, we have choices, we have options, and we have to think about long term, and being able to pick our head up out of the sand and say, what are my options? And it's not going to happen overnight, but being able to really explore what that might look like for you is incredibly powerful.
But someone told me when I was going through my darkest times, Jane, I want you to know, not making the decision is making a decision also.
Yes.
Oh my God, that blew my mind. It was like all hell broke loose.
Yes.
And I got this feeling inside, and I was so scared. And I knew I had to make a decision in my life. And this was the hardest decision I think I ever had to make, and it stuck with me. Yeah. Jane, not making a decision is making a decision.
Absolutely.
And this is someone that's like 20 years younger than me. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, wow, what great advice, what a statement to make, like, to someone like me. And I took that and I ran with it. And I made that decision because I knew what she was saying to me was so true.
So true.
So the softening part, I get. And not making that decision sometimes is the hardest decision you'll ever make. So yes, you have to value all those things. Yes, you do have a car payment. Yes, you do have kids, and someone, whatever the trauma is happening in your life, yeah, you still have to make that decision, and that is so hard for so many people.
And the procrastination, like you said, even is a decision in of itself.
Absolutely.
The spiraling, the swirling, all of it.
And for me, I was spiraling.
Yeah.
One day after another. One day I would be up, the next day I would be down.
Yeah.
The third day I would be up, the next day I would be just spiraling down this dark hole, and it was driving me absolutely crazy. So I said, you know what? It's time to burn the house down.
Yeah.
I need to unpack my life, because at this point, nothing's working. I'm going crazy. I'm physically sick. I'm mentally not well. Everything was dark. And that's when for me, I had to make that decision. Mm-hmm. And I did. And thank God I did, because at this point, I'm a better person. I'm healthy. I'm aware of things much more than I was. And I just feel very much at home with who I am. And I know who I am now. That identity shift was huge for me. And that's where this work came from. Unpack Your Life came out of all of that. This is the conversation, the framework is the method, and the rebuild is the transformation.
That was my question for you, is what did it lead you to?
Transformation, totally. Yeah. Just knowing who I am now, knowing the work that I want to do, not performance, not surface conversations anymore, saying what I mean, being kind, not wearing a mask, all of that, all of that. Everything that we spoke about here today, becoming more loving, more nurturing, more giving, all of it. And it's not easy to come to that,
no.
Because a lot of people think we're very linear. We can't, we can't pivot. Shift. We can't move or pivot. Exactly. And it brings me back to your power shift.
Yeah.
The work is, you work inside corporations. You sit in rooms with organizations that employ high-performing women who are running on broken operating systems. And that's what you talk about. What do those organizations get wrong about why she's burning out?
This is the $1 million question. I love that. And thank you for asking it. I think there's a couple things, but if I had to distill it down, I think the biggest thing is organizations think women are burning out just because they're juggling all the things. And yes, that is part of it. We have reached capacity. We've exceeded our capacity. But the underlying beliefs and strategies that women are running, people within the organizations are reinforcing these patterns and behaviors, and inadvertently, sometimes intentionally, but mostly inadvertently exploiting them. So, the prover, the one who's running and will do anything, right? If I'm the one who's like, oh, I got it, I'll do it, no problem, you're just going to keep giving her more and more and more and more. And she's not going to complain. She's the fixer or the prover, and she's not going to stop, right? Or you have the chameleon who's always going to say yes to the leader, no matter what the leader wants, even when the leader's wrong. They're not going to say, no, that's a bad idea, right? So are you really helping the organization? Are you really helping her? And so it's how do we look at these behaviors and strategies and stop feeding them and, seeing them for what they are is really the biggest thing I can say.
And that yes person, when I was in the entertainment industry, that yes person is the enabler.
Yes.
No matter what. They're
codependent enabler, usually. Yep.
And when you look at the entertainment industry, that's the downfall of so many.
Yeah.
Because they have all these people around them that are saying yes, yes, no matter what. The person that says no is the person that gets cut immediately. And that's the horrible part, because those are the people that actually care.
Yep.
What would it look like if an organization actually got this right? What changes first?
So I believe if an organization got this right, you would see more women in positions of power. You would see more women in positions of leadership, more women in the C-suite. It's not going to happen overnight, and it may not be 50-50, but when we look at the statistics today, they are abysmal. And so, the question is like, how do we fix it? Everybody's fixated on how do we fix the problem, but they're looking at surface level solutions. They're not looking at the root cause. They're not looking at the underlying problems that women are struggling with. They're trying to bring in yoga, right? And like more lunches, and that's not going to fix the problem. And so I think when we start addressing the root cause is when we empower women to actually step into greater positions of power and stay there. Because what happens a lot of the time is women get promoted and then they leave or they step back. And so
they treat the employees the way the person that was in power before them the same
exact way. Right. And so we're losing them.
Yeah, we need to have more leaders need to be more empathetic to mental awareness.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, and mental health, all of that. We don't need yoga, like you said. We can get that anywhere. We can work out anywhere. You can get Tai Chi on television now.
Exactly.
For free. So I totally understand what you're saying. My whole embodiment of identity has come through experience. It's not theory. It's definitely lived experience, and yours is also on the corporate side too. And I think people like you and I will help a lot of women out here, men and women, because I work with men and women. I just don't only work with women.
Sure.
You and I are both in the business of helping women, and for me, men, rebuild who they are on purpose.
Absolutely.
Where do you think our approaches diverge? And where does someone need what you have versus what I have?
So I think identity is the root of everything. Identity drives our decisions, our behavior, because it's the lens through which we see ourselves. A lot of people think identity is how other people see us. Identity is really about how we see ourselves, right? It's what we believe.
Identity.
Yeah.
And that's social evaluation, actually.
Right. It's identity is who you are, who you believe you are, what you believe you're capable of, what you believe you're not capable of. And so the stories that we tell ourselves. So I think where you and I converge is identity is the center of the universe. It guides everything.
It's the DNA. It's the DNA of all of it. I ask because I think the woman who needs you and the woman who needs me, might actually be the same women.
Sure.
And men.
Sure.
At two different points in the work.
Absolutely.
That's where you and I collaborate.
Absolutely.
That's where you and I find that, medium ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, I love the corporate. I love, where I come into play with this, with my experience, my whole everything. I've experienced it all and still experiencing it and
Yeah.
still moving through it. And I love it. And I hope, in the future that you and I really get to collaborate, because I think we could bring something very powerful to the stage for people. I don't mean, physically, but I mean just to the stage of the world.
Absolutely.
And like I said, this is not linear. We all can be three-dimensional. We all can become whomever we choose to become. That personal identification, that is who you believe you are. That social evaluation, that's what everybody else believes you are.
Correct.
But you have to really think about that. What are you putting out there? People don't realize they're putting something out there. And that's what attracts the people that shouldn't be in your life.
Yes, so true.
That's what attracts the people that shouldn't be in your life.
Well
you
said.
have to really find yourself back
Mm-hmm.
at home with
Mm-hmm.
who you are. And I'll say this forever. I think success should be done in reverse.
Yeah.
Find out who you are and then go after what fascinates you, what makes you want to jump out of bed.
What lights
Not
you up?
the
Mm-hmm.
money or the fame, because those two fade. Money is energy and fluid, and it can just go right through your hands.
For
So
sure.
I think we all should figure that out.
For sure.
Gia, I usually end this conversation and every conversation with this. What is your unpacked takeaway? Not for the audience, for you. What did this conversation surface that you're going to sit with?
It's a great question. I think for me, it just reinforces the fact that we're not alone in this journey. I think when we're going through it, we feel isolated. We feel, and we don't want to be vulnerable and talk about it because we feel like we're the only one, or we're embarrassed, or people will judge us, and what will they think and what will they say? And I think the biggest takeaway, Jean, is the fact that you and I are on to the same thing. People need this work. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is, I used to think this was like a super niche area. It's not.
Wow.
It's not. And, I think that's the biggest takeaway is like everybody needs this work.
Definitely. Because we're all trying to find ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we, the inherited traits are strong. And, I do a hell of a lot of reading and research. I'm sure you do too. And understanding what this is all about really has opened my eyes to the world differently. And I love this work. I'm fascinated. I'm running after it. I wake up and at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, okay, what's next?
Yes.
And that's a beautiful thing when I used to wake up and go, oh my God, what problem I have to solve today?
Mm-hmm.
What didn't happen on Friday that is going to kill me and crush me on Monday?
Absolutely.
I used to couldn't catch my breath on Monday. I hated Mondays. These Mondays, I love them.
I
Because when I
know.
wake up, I'm happy, I'm excited, and I'm raring to go.
I love it.
So, Gia, before we close, where can people find you? Find Elevate and find Power Shift.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Jane, I just want to say thank you again for having me on the show. It's truly been an honor, and love watching the impact that you're having on the world, and just love the work that you're doing. So thank you. And you can find me at Gia Lacqua, GIALACQUA.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn at Gia Lacqua. And you can check out my podcast, What the Shift, on any podcast platform.
It's a fantastic podcast, guys. I was on it.
Yes.
And she asked me some tough questions, trust me. If anything in this conversation moved you guys, something in you, if you felt something name itself that you have not had language for before, that is stage one. That is unpacked working. Come find me at Diamond Key Coaching. The strategic clarity session is open now, and the free identity audit is waiting for you. Let's keep doing this work. And guess what? Here's your unpacked takeaway from today. Gia said it great. I'm saying it to you. I'm reinforcing this. You are not the identity you inherited. You are the operating system you built for someone else's definition of success. You are not that. You are not the version of yourself that was optimized for a season that has passed. You have many more seasons to come. You are whoever you choose to become, and that choosing starts with being honest and what you have been carrying. Always be honest about what you have been carrying. I am Jane Bond, identity strategist, founder of Diamond Key Coaching, and your host right here on Unpack Your Life. Thank you for being here, and let's keep unpacking. And please do it frequently. Thank you. Gia, this was great.
Oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.